Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wondered why sometimes you are lightning fast and other times you are stuck in slow motion when you are doing something on a computer? Well, this new study dives deep into that very question using a fancy tool called the ex-Gaussian model. So, what is the big idea here? Scientists often use special math models to understand why people react at different speeds. One popular model is the ex-Gaussian distribution. Think of it like this. Your reaction time, how fast you respond, has two parts. There is the main part that is pretty normal, like most people's speeds, and then there is a long, slow tail, where some responses take much longer. The ex-Gaussian model tries to capture both these parts. These parameters, mu, sigma, and tau, help scientists understand what is going on in your brain when you react. Mu and sigma describe the normal part, while tau describes that slow, draggy tail. Researchers love to use these to figure out if something is making people faster in general, or if it is just making the super slow responses happen even less often. Now here is where things get a bit tricky, especially when using a popular software tool called brms in R, which is a programming language for statistics. While brms makes it easy to use these ex-Gaussian models, it uses a slightly different way of naming and measuring these parameters than what many researchers are used to. Imagine you are trying to measure someone's height. You could measure from their feet to their head, or you could measure from their feet to their chin. Both are heights, but they measure different things. The BRM software, by default, measures a kind of overall reaction time for its main parameter, which they call mu. But many scientists traditionally use mu to measure just the normal part of the reaction time, not the whole thing, including that slow tail. This can lead to confusion and potentially wrong conclusions. To show this, the researchers designed a clever little experiment using simulated data. They created two groups of imaginary participants. In the first group, called clear, the normal part of reaction time was a bit slower, but the super slow tail was shorter. In the second group, low blur, the normal part was a bit faster, but the super slow tail was longer. Here is the kicker. They made sure the average reaction time for both groups was exactly the same. This setup is perfect for testing if the software can tell the difference between a change in the normal part and a change in the slow tail, especially when the overall average stays the same. So, they first ran the analysis using the default settings in brms. When they looked at the results for the mu parameter, which in brms represents the overall average reaction time, it looked like there was no difference between the clear and low blur groups, which made sense because the average was designed to be the same. But when they looked at the beta parameter, which in brms represents that slow tail, they saw a difference. This told them that the default brms model was picking up on the differences in the tail, but its main mu parameter wasn't directly showing the changes in the normal speed. The actual change in the normal speed was hidden, mixed in with the changes in the tail. Then, they used a different tool called cogmod, which allows them to use the classical way of measuring the ex-Gaussian parameters. With this classical approach, they could directly look at the mu parameter, which now represented only the normal speed of reaction. And guess what? They found a clear difference between the clear and low blur groups in this mu parameter exactly as they had designed it. And when they looked at the slow tail parameter tau in this classical model, it also showed differences. But importantly, the changes in the normal speed were now clearly separated from the changes in the slow tail. This simulation really hammered home the point. The way you set up your model's parameters can drastically change how you interpret your results. Even if you are looking at the same data, it is like trying to understand a car's performance by only looking at its top speed versus looking at its acceleration, top speed, and fuel efficiency separately. But this isn't just a theoretical problem. The researchers then took a real study that had already been published and reanalyzed it using both the default brms parameterization and the classical one. This published study looked at how different cues affected people's reaction times in a memory task. In the original study, the researchers used the default brms model and concluded that certain cues changed the mu parameter, which they thought meant they were speeding up the normal cognitive processes. However, when the current authors reanalyzed the data using the classical parameterization, they found something different. They discovered that what the original study interpreted as a change in the normal speed, mu, was actually a mix of changes in both the normal speed and the slow tail. More importantly, they found that one specific effect, the impact of how long a cue was shown, which the original study attributed to a change in normal processing speed, was actually due to a shortening of the slow tail. This means that by not using the classical parameterization, the original researchers might have misinterpreted which part of the cognitive process was affected by the experimental manipulation. It is a subtle but important difference. It highlights how crucial it is to understand exactly what your model's parameters are measuring. So, what is the takeaway here? If you are studying reaction times and using Bayesian methods with packages like BRMs, be very careful about how the ex-Gaussian model is set up. Don't just assume that a parameter labeled mu always means the same thing. Always check the documentation and understand the specifics of the parameterization. Using the classical parameterization, as shown with the CogMod package, can give you a clearer picture of what is happening in the normal speed of processing versus the slow tail. This kind of careful attention to detail is what makes science robust. It is not just about getting an answer, but about making sure you are asking the right questions and interpreting those answers correctly. This study is a great reminder that even with powerful tools, we need to be mindful of how we're using them. So, what do you think about this? Have you ever encountered similar issues with software defaults? Let us know in the comments below, and if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more dives into fascinating research. See you next time.